Ellen Roome, has been desperately fighting for the release of her son Jools' social media history. She wants to know what he was looking at before he died, because she hopes it will provide answers about his death. After 7, we're going to talk to her about any progress that she might have made. And we're also talking to the mum of Archie Battersbee, Hollie Dance. Now, her son was found unconscious in a similar way just days before Jools. It seems extraordinary, doesn't it, that as parents, if we suffered the unimaginable loss of a child and we think that it is connected in some way to what they were looking at online, you think the automatic response of the social media companies would be, let's help. Let's show you everything that they were looking at, any messages they might have been exchanging with other people, any trends, any pranks, anything that might help you understand the tragedy of the loss of your child.
And instead, they're saying, go and get a court order. They're saying, go to court and demand through the court we give you this information. It's sort of...
Not only that, we might have deleted it because it didn't serve our business purposes to keep it. I mean, layer upon layer of trauma and tragedy for these mums, and they are going to join us after 7 o'clock to tell us what kind of progress they're making when it comes to asking the social media companies, please hand over that information to us. Right. It affects all of us, and it's a really important fight.
United in the most unimaginable circumstances, mothers Ellen Roome and Hollie Dance are both fighting social media companies to get hold of their sons' internet histories in a bid to find answers about what happened and how they died.
Ellen's son, Jools Sweeney, known as Jools, took his life in April 2022, just 6 days after Archie Battersbee was found unconscious in separate but similar circumstances, and Archie succumbed to his injuries 4 months later.
And Jools' mum, Ellen, and Archie's mum, Hollie, join us now. It's, I think, for our viewers, it's so difficult and so brave for you both to come and talk about this. Because I know how painful that will be, but you're trying to help others as well as yourselves to get answers.
Massively. And I think I've always said, and so have you, that if we can make a difference to other people, then that's what we're here for, by sharing. I heard a lovely phrase the other day, turning pain into purpose, using our pain to make a difference to everybody.
Ellen, your son Jools, 14 years old, what do you feel you need to know from the social media companies?
Well, we've searched his offline history, and there was nothing there that has shown why he might take his life. And the coroner ruled he couldn't rule it as suicide because he couldn't prove he was in a suicidal mood. So from our point of view, the only thing we haven't searched is his online history.
So when you say his offline history, you mean just his...
He wasn't bullied, there was nothing at school, they didn't have a problem with a teacher. Right. There's nothing that's come out that could have contributed towards his death.
And you're a loving mum, you know your son. Mm-hmm. What was he like in the days, weeks before?
Normal, really normal. I didn't have one thought that there was a problem. He was absolutely normal. In fact, there's a photo on a security camera and he's saying goodbye to a friend. And he's laughing and he'd been playing, and there wasn't one part from either his father or I that thought there was a problem.
So he's perfectly normal, 14-year-old.
Yeah.
He's got friends. He's not being bullied at school. And then you find him dead. I think anybody would assume, okay, there's something else going on that I can't see. And we all know our 14-year-olds, our teenagers are on social media all of the time. You then go, presumably, to the social media companies. And what was he on? Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok?
Correct, yeah.
And say, could I have a look then at what he was browsing, what he was looking at, perhaps what he was searching for, perhaps any messages that were being sent?
And I don't know it's that, but he could have been talking to somebody that was claiming to be a child that's, said the wrong thing. He could have done an online challenge. He could have... I don't know. And that's the thing, I just don't know. But I think as a parent, we should have the right. And I was really shocked that we don't have the right to see our children's online data.
As a mum, though, I mean, didn't you just assume they would show you.
I
mean, it's just kind of
absolutely,
like-
I did.
To me, it's actually it's quite shocking to find out that they just that they wouldn't. So
I think I've made thousands aware of that with my recent petition, that people are going, what? You can't see it? I was like, I don't understand. We're responsible for children. He was 14 years old. He's a minor. You know, why can't I see what he's doing and say, well, what did happen? You know, I don't know.
and especially in these circumstances, because, you know, if you were a parent getting in touch with the social media companies to say, my 15-year-old is not telling me what's really going on in their life, I need to see their account. You can see why the social media companies would say, hang on, privacy issues, do you have permission? But in this case, when your son has lost his life, and there is clearly a question as to what's happened, it's just baffling, and their reaction feels so tone deaf.
So I had a Zoom meeting with TikTok the other week, and they said they couldn't release it because of other children's privacy rights. And I thought, well, you can redact other details. I don't need to see who sent what. I just need to see what was there. And then they sort of said, well, we delete his data after a year. Well, it's not always a year. Well, it's sometimes a year. And I said, well, a company your size will have a policy on when do you delete the data. And he said, I need to come back to you. And he sent me the privacy data, which says we hold it for as long as needed, or worded like that.
Also, I think that the social media companies argued that they keep or delete the data based on business reasons rather than privacy.
I haven't seen that. I was told it was privacy, yeah.
Right. You believe that Jools saw something that led to his death? Do you believe that he chose to take his own life?
I don't understand, and how he took his life as well. I do not understand why a normal child who's never presented any mental health problems would suddenly end his life unless he was trying something that went wrong.
So it's some kind of game or challenge or...
That's my gut feeling.
And Hollie, in the case of your lovely son, you believe the same thing?
Exactly the same. Archie was a very fearless child, so he would probably be the first to try something, not being aware of the danger that obviously it's led to, but I do believe that he has done. Again, the same with Ellen, though. You know, we could be totally wrong, you know, but we just want those answers.
Of course, and for you, it's very hard to kind of move forward and to see your sons, you know, in proper context,
Happy, healthy
to celebrate their
children.
lives. If there is this terrible uncertainty, I can totally understand why it would become a compelling need to understand.
It's become an obsession almost, that I need to know answers. And every day we're hearing of other parents in similar situations, and you think, this is wrong, this has to change, we're not doing enough to protect our children.
So the government, the new law, the Online Safety Bill, now gives the coroner the power to get this information from the companies in the case of a death. But the bill doesn't give parents any rights at the moment. Is that, I think that's correct.
That's correct. And also, we are waiting for children to die before we can get that information.
Right.
That needs to change.
Now, that's interesting because Ed raised the question about whether parents should have access to what their children are looking at, you know, even if they haven't experienced the tragedy that you two mums have had. Do you still want that? That parents, you know, if we're concerned that our children are looking at pranks, which we know as sensible adults could be dangerous.
I think something has to be in place. It's our job as parents to safeguard our children. So, I believe something should be in place.
I think there needs to be more to safeguard children massively. And when I set up the petition, I said, right, well, you should all have the rights. And I didn't really think that through, that there are some parents that potentially are the perpetrators, and we need to protect children from them. So that needs to have a bigger discussion. I understand that. But as you know, majority of parents, if they knew their children were struggling, and I'm contacted daily by people saying my child's struggling or whatever, and I said, well, could you get your child to go through and show you the feed and see what they're looking at? And I said, my teenager's not going to show me that.
No.
But I would probably, if Jools was alive, I'd play dumb parent and say, can you show me what you're looking at? And try and get them to interact, because I think you'd see quite, easily that they're looking at content that is not appropriate.
It gets to a fundamental question about what these social media companies are and what they're providing, because they want to say, well, nothing to do with us. We're just the technology. People look, people post. But of course, that is really true, because they're publishing like a newspaper, they are producing something like a television programme, but they have huge responsibilities, and it feels as though, from your point of view, from parents' point of view, these companies don't really face up to how powerful they are and how important they are in our kids' lives, and therefore, it's not acceptable for them to say nothing to do with us, or you can't see that, or just stand aside.
There needs to be some accountability that you're publishing this, you need to control what's on it.
And you need to help parents find answers.
Exactly.
I find it absolutely baffling. I find it baffling. Unless there's some other reason that they feel they should, or they can't release this information.
Why would they not release it? I was saying earlier, if you went to an online shop and you looked at blue socks, green socks and pink socks and wanted the history of what you're looking at, they'd give it to you. There's nothing to hide. So why are they not releasing it?
And you're suspicious about that reason?
I am very.
Yeah. And Hollie, what would you say to parents, just terrified about what their children might be looking at online and what it might lead to?
I think the communication between parents and children is a huge thing, and I think lockdown has obviously brought in the internet in our children's life massively. It's there outside. My friend that's a psychotherapist, she said that there's like 300 referrals a day for children suffering with anxiety. They can't socialise now because obviously we've had the lockdown for 2 years.
They've lost those skills, haven't they? And of course, yes, you're right, parents might have carried on working. Children weren't at school.
No.
We don't know what they were looking at, do we?
But it's also a simple thing, being in the playground when you're 11, 12, 13 can be quite stressful. And the problem with social media is like you're in the playground all the time. In the 10 at night, our kids are still
There's no switching off, is there?
complicated
Children
things.
that are being bullied as well.
Exactly.
Whereas obviously we grew up, it would end at school, but now it's going home with them as well. There's no...
I think when, you speaking out is going to put more pressure on the social media companies, and frankly, we should hold their feet to the fire on this. I absolutely agree. And
I think they've got to take accountability.
Take accountability where they should.
As I said at the start, it's hard what you're doing, but it's really, really important.
It's hard.
It's really important.
It's emotionally and physically draining.
Yes.
But we are determined to make a difference.
Yeah. Right, so let's just find out what TikTok said. Their statement says, we do not have information about what Jools was watching or searching on TikTok because the law requires us to delete the data. Now, and I have the longer statement here. We do not have information about what Jools was watching or searching on TikTok because the law requires us, like other companies, to delete data unless it is essential to the business.
Well, I looked at Jools' phone the other day, which I haven't turned on for a while, and there is data there from 2 years ago on one of his accounts, and there's an awful lot of greyed out images that some of them are removed. But there are some data there, so that's not true. There are data there.
It says we do not have any further information on his watch or search history than Ellen has from his account. We're going to look at how we can better support bereaved parents who wish to access information about their child's account.
Better support is a bit of a strange phrase. Start to support me.
Change things.
Change things. Release the data. Thank you both very much indeed.
you.
If you're affected by any of the issues we've been discussing, you can find advice